I've got 5 retirement planning tips for Washington State employees to do for 2025. Let's dive right into them. So tip number 1 is you need to start understanding your pension plan. And it's so much more than just figuring out the formula. That's the easy part. If you understand that plan 3 is 1% and plan 2 is 2%, that's great. But I encourage you guys to dive a little bit deeper. I've gone into depth in all of these topics in the past, and it's important to refresh so you understand how systems work, but also understand the intricacies of each plan. Now, once you understand the percentage on the formula works, that's great, but I encourage you guys to look a little bit deeper in that and then see, what can I do to increase those benefits? If I were to retire earlier, does it make sense to take a penalty on the pension, or should I wait? Is there an indexing benefit on plan 3 that would offset the potential income I would have generated had I taken the pension early? So it's really important to understand the pension at a deeper level than just how the basic formula works. If you just go by the formula, you're going to be working to age 65, and most of my clients that are into don't want to work that long, and I'm actually getting them out about 2 to 3 years earlier than the state says they do. So our average client now is retiring anywhere from age 59 to 60, and a few of them even earlier than that. And it's all because we understand the different benefits that go in there, and the pension being the biggest one. Don't let the word penalty scare you guys. I know so many people that take Social Security at age 62 because that's the earliest they can take it, and they don't understand that they're taking a 30% penalty by not waiting until their full retirement age at age 67. Social Security doesn't call collecting age 62 a penalty by any means. They say, hey, you're collecting early and you therefore get a reduced benefit. The same is true with your pension. If you're to collect before age 62 or before age 65, you're going to be assessed with a lower benefit amount. They call it a penalty to kind of discourage people from taking it, but at the end of the day, the earlier you collect it, the less you get. The same is true with Social Security, so don't let the word penalty scare you. If the numbers work better in your favor for collecting a little bit earlier and getting a little bit less income because you're going to be collecting payments earlier, plus you're going to be in line for cost of living adjustments as well, it may make sense to go ahead and do that. The second tip I have for you guys is to start looking at your retirement benefit contribution limitations. They change each and every year. For 2025, I have a couple of changes here. So first and foremost, the amount you can contribute into deferred compensation plan, 401ks, or 403bs is increasing. So for those under age 50, it's going from $23,000 up to $23,500. So it's extra $5 more than you did last year. Those of you over 50, you can add an extra $7,500 on top of that, or $31,000 per year. So if you're under 50, it's $23,500. Over 50, it's $31,000. However, starting 25, there's a new enhanced catch-up provision. And what that allows people to do is actually save an additional $11,000 on top of the base contribution amount. And this is only eligible for people age 60 to 63. If at the end of 2025, you're going to be age 60, 61, 62, or 63, this is for you. If you're currently 63 and will be 64 by the end of 2025, then you have to go back and use the old contribution limits of $31,000. So for those of you that qualify, the amount you can contribute with this new enhanced benefit is $34,750. So there's this new rule that just came out that's supposed to help people get close to retirement, save a little bit extra. Now, on top of that, remember that these employer-sponsored plans, you can only contribute through payroll. So you can't just write a check from your bank account to go into there. It has to physically come from your paycheck. So if you're going to retire in 2025, especially retiring mid-year like most teachers are, we're going to be retiring at the end of the year at June or July, then we want to make sure we get as much money in there as possible. And if you keep just doing what you have been doing in the past, you're going to run out of time and not be able to hit your maximum contribution. So if your cash flow allows it, now's a good time to increase that contribution amount, because once we retire in June or July, we're not going to have the ability to be putting into these accounts anymore. So if you're like, hey, I want to max this thing out before I leave, and I'm currently 60 or I'll be 60 next year, I want to do the whole $34,000, you actually need to save about $5,791 per month for 6 months to hit the $34,000 limit. Now, if you can't get this, there's no shame. That's a really big number to hit. But if it is possible, then you want to strive for that so you can get as much stuffed away in for retirement. And remember that the money is basically going to be hands off until you separate service. So if you were to retire or separate service in June, that money then becomes available for you, especially for over age 59 and a half. So if you're 60, you plug all this money away into it. All you really need to do is have enough savings lined up, or cut your expenses down so you can make it to June. And once you've made it past and that money now becomes yours again, you can draw from it as you see fit. Yes, it's still going to be pre-tax, just like your income was that you probably put into there, but it is available for you. I see a lot of retirees go into retirement and they're so worried about their emergency fund. Do I have enough? Do I have enough? and they don't really understand is the emergency fund is there for when you're working, for if you were to lose your job, your source of income, you have money to draw from to pay for your benefits. When you are retired, you already don't have an income. You're going to get your pension and you're going to get your Social Security check. You really don't need a big, necessarily emergency fund in the sense of replacing income. You'll need something to recover for outside costs or vacations, things like that. But keeping a large amount in the bank isn't really necessary anymore because now all of your retirement money is unlocked and free and available to use. So you may need to do some restructuring of where you keep your money in retirement because it may not make sense to have such a large emergency account in a bank not earning anything when you can have it into a different investment vehicle that could be producing you more investment income. Tip number 3 for you guys is to review your healthcare coverage. So the beginning of the year is a really good time to go through, look at the current health plan you're on, go through any of the details you've been questioning. If you have any type of medical procedures or things coming up, double check the details so you have full understanding of what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered. So you want to understand those benefits. Also, for those retiring, look into the VEBA plan. Remember that any unused sick leave can be moved into VEBA. It is a 4-to-1 exchange. It's the same as your cash out for sick leave. The biggest benefit is money that goes into VEBA goes in there tax-free, also grows tax-free. As long as you use it for healthcare expenses, it comes out tax-free. So it's triple tax protected. VEBA is an important plan to kind of get up to speed on to see if it's going to make most sense to use your sick leave instead of just cashing it out. Now, on that same thread, it's important to also look at your long-term care costs. So it's important to have some type of plan for that. Remember that Medicare doesn't pay anything for that. Medicaid only kicks in when you're basically broke. So you need to be in charge of that type of care. Where's that money going to come from? Are we going to pull everything out from our savings or retirement accounts? Or do we plan to purchase insurance? Are we going to use equity from the home? You need to have some type of plan or course of action for that. Don't just let it slip by and just assume your family's going to take care of you, because I've seen it more times than I really should have, of how that destroys families' relationships, and it's just a big hassle. You gotta remember that long-term care comes in various degrees. It's not I'm healthy one day and I'm on my deathbed the next day. It's a slowly degrading process where you're gonna start doing less and less things. And the earlier is not so bad. As they get closer to the end stage, it can increase and it could be beyond what your family's willing to do, capable to do, financially able to do. Keep in mind that if they're taking care of you, they're not spending time with their families, they're not at work, it just increases the mental load on them. So while I have to like to rely on our family to be there for that stuff, you have to think outside and see, is that really the person I really want caring for me? Or would a licensed person that does for a living be a better suit? That may also lead to my family wanting to visit me more and resenting me less in my later years. So long-term care is a huge topic that everyone needs to start thinking about and get some type of plan in place. Doesn't mean buy insurance. You need to have some type of plan of how are we going to pay for this if and when the time comes. I actually have an AI tool that will go into family history, analyze tons of data points, and will give you a rough idea of your potential longevity and what type of care, how much care you may need. And that's, like I said, it's AI, it's using data points. It's not exact. Of course, we don't know the future, but it's going to give you a starting point of how much care you potentially would need. So, you should actually have a goal in mind of how much I should save for, how much insurance I should purchase. Now, that tool is available exclusively for people inside of the community. If you'd like to join, the link is in the description below. It's a free retirement community exclusive for Washington State retirees. Once you join in there, which is free by the way, you'll have access to that tool, get a better idea of how much long-term care coverage you should be pursuing. Tip number 4, and this one is super important, and a lot of people never ever take the time to do it, and that is double checking the beneficiaries on all of your financial accounts. So this exercise isn't a lot of fun, but it is important to revisit because a lot of times accounts go undocumented or get missed, and it's better to catch it now than after the fact. If we don't catch not having beneficiaries or the correct beneficiaries until down the road after we've passed, it's going to create an absolute headache. It's going to be expensive. The time process to get the money to the people you want it to, it's going to take a lot longer. So having the correct beneficiaries in your accounts is really important. So you want to make sure you're checking all accounts you have, whether that be investment accounts, retirement accounts. You need to look at what you have as far as like with the state is for your pension or the money invested there. Any type of institution that involves money, you should have some type of beneficiary on file. That includes life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, things like that. Now, case in point, I met with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, right before Thanksgiving, sat down and I was going through some life insurance policies he bought a few years back. And I noticed that the contingent beneficiary line was blank and he has 3 kids. And I asked, did you guys know about this? And they had no idea. And unfortunately, we see this a lot. When you're dealing with advisors or any type of people in finance and they are after a commission or they're just there to manage your money, oftentimes they miss little things like this. So this person went in there, got his check and left. He didn't care about the contingent beneficiary part or didn't know better. And oftentimes this is because depending on the company, when you want to add certain things like a contingent beneficiary, they ask for a lot of information. So they want to know, date of birth and social security numbers and addresses and emails and phone numbers, and it's a lot. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to people, you forgot about it, you don't look like an idiot going back to clients saying, hey, I forgot about this, oftentimes you get skipped. I've seen this so many times. I worked for an insurance company for almost 4 years, so I can't tell you how many times I've seen colleagues, do this, to people. So double check your life insurance policies to make sure that the contingent beneficiaries are listed on there. And of course, when you're in this process, if you find an account that is missing one, make sure to update it. If your wishes have changed and you no longer want to give it to a certain person, you want to give it to some other institution or nonprofit, then make the change in there as well. If you got a trust set up and you want assets to go in the trust, remember that you need to change the beneficiaries on your accounts from the contingent beneficiary to the trust, or to the primary beneficiary to the trust. If you don't update the beneficiaries, the trust will have nothing going to it. So make sure the trust is listed as beneficiaries if you have one set up. And finally, tip number 5 is to set your financial goals for 2025. You can only accomplish what you measure. So it's important to measure what your goals are. And it can be anything, right? So if it's, hey, I want to take more time off this year to spend time with the kids or grandkids, I'm going to try to increase my savings by X amount of dollars per month or per year. Those are real easy changes to make. Hey, I want to spend a little bit less this year. Then you can also strive for that. Now, you need to track these things. You can't just say, I'm going to do it and then kind of forget about it. Best tool out there is just get yourself a simple spreadsheet, Excel or Google Sheets, and just make a habit of going there and logging these things and tracking it towards your goal. So for me, I set a goal to make $100,000 of investment income. So not working as an advisor, separate on the side from just investments alone. I was hoping to make $100,000 in investment income next year. So I already have a spreadsheet. I've been tracking my gains for 2024, and I think it's possible for me to do it in 2025. So I'm going to have a spreadsheet. Anytime I'm taking profits, I'm going to be marking in there to try to hit that goal. So it doesn't matter what your goal is, just make sure you have a process to track what it is and just make it simple. Spreadsheet, go in there, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, just you got to get in the habit of doing it. If you need accountability, that's also what our group on school is for. We're trying to build the community with educators that we can hold each other accountable to these goals. So post your goals in there, get support from other Washington State employees that are working and trying to strive for the same type of financial freedom and goals that you are. And you can create a kind of a supportive environment. So make sure you join the group. It is free and we can start building something great there. All right, that's all the tips I have for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I wish you guys the best in 2025. And remember that your future depends on what you do today.